Before we investigate anyone else, I want to reverse the camera for a moment. Can the subject investigate us? Imagine that you are checking a suspicious recruitment account. You open it while signed into your everyday social profile, download a document called job description, and later send a screenshot from your work computer. You may not have told the account operator who you are, but the platform, the file, and your reused identifiers may already have done part of that work. That is the problem OPSEC addresses. It is not a competition to build the most complicated setup. It is a disciplined way to decide what this task could expose, how serious that exposure would be, and which controls are strong enough for the real risk. Public access and risk-free access are not the same thing. A public page may still see an IP address, browser state, device characteristics, and a logged-in account. A platform may recommend mutual contacts. A simple message to the subject can reveal language habits, time zone, purpose, or the fact that an investigation has begun. Now add a file. The recruitment account sends a spreadsheet and says the salary details are inside. The file may request macros, carry tracking behavior, or simply lure you into moving material from the investigation environment to your everyday computer. Meanwhile, the subject notices scrutiny, deletes posts, changes usernames, and alters the evidence seen. OPSEC therefore protects more than the investigator. It protects the working environment and the chance to observe evidence before our own actions change it. The 5 steps begin with information, not software. First, identify what must not be exposed. Second, describe who might look for it and what that actor can realistically do. Third, find the weaknesses that create a path. Fourth, judge likelihood and impact. Only then do we choose controls. For the recruitment case, the protected information may be your real name, employer, and investigative purpose. The threat actor is the account operator. The vulnerability may be a reused username and an everyday browser that is still logged in. The impact could be identification, HRAPID, or rapid evidence deletion. Now a separate identity and a separate browser have a reason to exist. If somebody begins with use a VPN, ask what path that control is supposed to interrupt. A different network exit will not remove a real account login, prevent avatar reverse search, or make unauthorized activity lawful. Every control should point back to a specific exposure path. Protect my privacy sounds sensible, but it is too vague to guide a team. We need a list of concrete information types. Identity information includes a real name, common avatar, phone number, email, and employer. Environment information includes a home network, device profile, login state, and file paths. Relationship information covers colleagues, friends, shared groups, and recovery channels. Mission information includes the subject, timeline, evidence already collected, and the organization that requested the work. The value of an item changes with the mission. A journalist may publish under a real name, while an internal fraud reviewer may need strict separation. A visit timestamp may be harmless in a routine company check, but highly revealing when a subject deletes evidence quickly after attention appears. Do not turn the list into a new secret dump. Record categories and consequences, such as work email, can lead to employer profile. Do not paste passwords, full recovery codes, or unnecessary personal values into the document. A threat becomes operationally important only when it can reach a weakness. Suppose a casual user searches the persona username. If that name is new, the avatar is independent, and the recovery address is not exposed, the path ends quickly. But if the name was used on an old forum, the user may find a signature link, follow it to a professional profile, and identify the investigator's employer. Notice how much more useful that is than writing, "The target might find me." A practical risk statement names the actor, the weakness, the route, the information gained, and the consequence. For example, the account operator searches a reused username, finds an old forum account, follows its profile link, and identifies the investigator's workplace. Now the team knows what to change and how to test the repair. Controls should rise with risk. They should not arrive as one giant package. A routine review of a public company announcement may need a separate browser profile, no real account login, and minimal data collection. A task that requires an investigation account needs separate registration and recovery channels. Unknown files raise the case for a virtual machine, dedicated device, or controlled remote environment. Network separation matters when the task and threat model actually justify it. Complexity has a cost. A virtual machine with a host folder mounted inside it may look isolated while quietly sharing data. A remote browser loses its value when an investigator logs into a real account or copies an untrusted file back to the host. For each control, write two answers. Which path does it reduce, and what does it not solve? Then test the result. Check automatic login, synchronization, download locations, clipboard behavior, and contact recommendations with harmless material before the real investigation begins. Lesson 24. We'll build an investigation persona in detail. For now, remove one misleading idea. A sock puppet is not simply a spare social account, and it is not an invitation to invent an elaborate life story. In a low-interaction task, the minimum may be a separate email, a new username, an independent avatar, and clean recovery channels. If the task only requires viewing public pages, the account may not need a rich posting history at all. Every extra detail creates another consistency problem and another ethical decision. Ask whether login is necessary. Then ask whether interaction is necessary. If public sources answer the question without either one, do not create more identity infrastructure than the mission needs.
A separate browser profile is useful because it interrupts state crossover. Your everyday browser contains email sessions, social logins, synchronized extensions, browsing history, and autofill. When a target page opens in that environment, platform systems may connect contexts that you intended to keep apart. A separate profile isolates some of that state. A separate operating system user, virtual machine, or remote workspace can add stronger boundaries. None of those boundaries is automatic. Sign into a real account and you have reopened the link. Drag an unknown document to the host and the hazardous material has crossed the boundary. Before choosing the setup, draw the data route. Where will the page open? Where will screenshots be stored? Who will inspect downloads? How will a validated artifact enter the evidence folder? How will the final report leave the environment? Exposure often happens during copy, upload, synchronization, and export rather than during ordinary viewing.
OPSEC can reduce visibility. It cannot grant permission. If a recruitment group requires approval, we do not impersonate a real applicant to defeat that control. If a database requires a subscription, leaked credentials are not an acceptable shortcut. A public profile may be viewable, yet collecting every unrelated phone number on the page may still exceed the purpose of the investigation. Treat access, collection, analysis, retention, and publication as separate decisions. Raw evidence that an internal team may lawfully review might be inappropriate for a public video. A complete screenshot may be retained briefly for verification without deserving permanent storage. When the boundary is unclear, pause and ask the task owner or legal reviewer. A secure environment is not a permission slip. Do not finish setup by admiring the settings. Test the identity from the outside. Search the persona username and look for old forums, email references, and reused profiles. Reverse search the avatar. Check whether the platform recommends real colleagues, friends, or common accounts. Inspect documents and screenshots for author names, device labels, file paths, location data, and other metadata. When you discover a link, preserve evidence of it, repair the exposure, and test again. Changing an avatar proves that a setting changed. A second reverse search provides evidence that the old image path is no longer visible. Keep the test proportionate. Do not submit your real phone number to a collection of questionable lookup services merely to test yourself. Use ordinary capabilities close to those available to the subject.
Sometimes the most professional investigative action is to stop. A platform recommends your real colleagues. The subject asks for identity documents. An unknown executable or macro-enabled file arrives. A real account is used by mistake. Online attention shifts into repeated threats or attempted offline contact. These are observable events, not vague feelings. When one occurs, preserve the current page and time, stop interaction, record which condition was triggered, and notify the responsible owner. Do not immediately create another account and continue. The original exposure may already have spread, and the new account may become another link. Write stop conditions before the task starts. Under pressure, people normalize warning signs. A pre-agreed rule turns a difficult emotional decision into a team process.
Let us apply the framework to the recruitment account. The requirement is narrow. Determine whether this profile genuinely represents the company it claims. We are not trying to identify every person behind it, enter private groups, provoke the operator, or collect unrelated applicant information. Our first sources are the public profile, recruitment posts, the company website, domain records, and official hiring channels. Compare email domains, posting dates, job wording, contact details, and the company's own notices. Much of the question can often be answered without interacting with the account. Only when a critical gap remains should we consider a company phone number or email published on the official website. Delaying contact protects both the investigation and the original evidence state.
Be careful is not a control because nobody can test it. Replace it with actions. Perform the review in a separate browser profile. Keep all real accounts signed out. Save only relevant screenshots and links in the project folder. Do not open attachments from the subject on the host, and use only official company contact details if confirmation becomes necessary. The plan also needs an owner, a test, a stop signal, and residual risk. For an unknown attachment, the control is do not open on the everyday device. The test confirms that the file remains in the isolated location. A request to enable macros becomes a stop signal. Residual risk remains even after good controls. The platform may hold more device linkage information than we can observe. An official inquiry may reveal that someone is checking the account. OPSEC lowers risk. It does not create zero risk.
Watch how an ordinary task becomes unsafe through bad ordering. The investigator opens the profile from a real account, and the platform suggests mutual contacts. Next comes a direct message. Are you a scammer? The subject now knows it is under review. Then the investigator downloads a macro-enabled job description to a work computer and saves an entire page of unrelated applicant contact details. The failure is not the absence of an advanced product. The investigator interacted, downloaded, and collected before defining the mission and risk. The corrected order is simpler. Define the question and boundaries. Use non-interactive public sources first, identify the remaining gap, and add only the control or contact needed to close that gap. Use the next 8 minutes to build an OPSEC and boundary checklist for a small case. Write the task, subject, authorization range, and expected interaction. List at least 3 critical information categories, 2 plausible actors, and 2 real vulnerabilities. Turn one of them into a complete path rather than writing only "I may be exposed." Choose the smallest control that meaningfully interrupts each path. Then add 1 residual risk and 2 observable stop conditions. A useful conclusion might read, the main exposure comes from real account login and attachment handling. A separate browser profile and a ban on opening subject-provided files reduce the risk to moderate, although platform-side linkage cannot be fully excluded. Finally, read the table from the subject's position. If that actor has only public search and a platform account, which path is easiest to exploit? If you can repair only 1 exposure first, which one deserves priority? That ranking becomes the starting point for Lesson 22, where we build a formal threat model.